So I've had a few people ask me how I set up my Google Classroom for remote learning. And so hopefully this video will kind of help explain some of the things I have done. And again, I don't necessarily say that you have to do it this way. This is just how I've kind of organized it for my own brain, really, to make sure that I know where everything's at. I will also say that it definitely took a while for me to figure out exactly how I wanted to set it up, as well as it took time for me to teach my students where everything was at as well. So just be prepared for those things. So the first thing I want to kind of highlight is this banner right here across the top here. And this banner where it says D303 Elementary Wellness Remote Learning 2020-21, it's important, and it doesn't have to be, beautiful. It just needs to be something where you know which class it is, because if you're like me, I've got 20 classes, you might have something similar. You want to know that whichever Google Classroom you're in is a classroom you're supposed to be in. So you want to have it somehow labeled. In the banner, I've got my classes labeled here, 5J. I also have it in the title here as well, just so that when I'm switching from class to class, I know which one I'm in and I'm in the right one. The next thing I want to talk about is where it says stream here. Ignore it. It's not well organized. You could spend time organizing it, but it's really a pain, in my opinion. I even tell my students to ignore the stream. I never use it, ever. You might find use out of it, and if you do, great. But for me, I just don't use it ever. What I use is classwork, and I will be here probably 90% of the time that I'm using Google Classroom, because this is where everything can be organized. There is this create button right here, which has some really great features. It has assignment, material, reuse post, and topic. And those are the ones I use the most often. You could use quiz assignment and you could use question for sure. There are certainly things that work well with that. But for my quizzes, I just do an assignment and usually do it as a Google form or possibly Google Slides, depending on what it would be. And that's how I do my assessments there. So I don't really ever use the quiz assignment. And you might find a purpose for it. I just don't. And same thing with the question. It's a great way to bring discussion around, but I don't really use Google Classroom for that. But again, you might. But the ones I use the most are the assignment, material, reuse post, and topic. So the first one we're going to explore is the assignment. This is one where you're going to create something brand new. You would write in your title. I'll just put sample assignment, just something really simple in there. Any directions that you might include, like first do this, then do that, and so on. You might give specific directions or login information if you're using a login website. And then you have this add button that allows you to link anything from your Google Drive. So maybe you have a Google Doc you want them to work on, or Google Slides you want them to work on. A link, so if you want them to go to a specific website to look at something, you can do that. A file from your computer that you can upload, or a YouTube video. You can also use the create button to create something new, and from doc slides and so on. But generally speaking, I've already created that, and so I'll just use the add. One of the other great things about this is where you can see here where it says for, you can actually click on all the classes that you have and share all to those different classes at the same time. I have 7 fifth grade classes I use. And so if I want to share it to all my 5th grade classes, I just simply click on those 5th grade classes, and you'll see now it says 7 classes there. And then as soon as I click assign, it will go to all 7 classes, which is just that's something new that they've added this year, which is great. A due date, I do recommend that for remote learning, you do add a due date. I always choose the Fridays, and I always choose 3 p.m. Now, I don't have any late penalties or anything like that, but what this does, and I'll go back to that main page here in a little bit. What it does is on that main page, it will show students what work is coming up, what work is due, and it can serve as a good reminder for that. You can assign a specific topic to go to, asynchronous lessons or synchronous lessons or anything else as a topic that you've created, and then that will help organize it, and I'll show you that again in a little bit. If you want to add a rubric, you can. I've never used that because that's not what I use this for, but that option is there. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. And you can see there's a draft, so I'm going to get rid of that draft. I don't need that here. Also with the create, like I said, you can do create material, which is very similar, but this doesn't give you an opportunity for a due date. This would be like if you wanted to put a poster up of maybe heart rates or a poster of SEL standards or whatever it might be. You just put up a material here, which would allow them to access it. There's no due date. It's just something for them to use as a resource. And again, when you click on add, it's the same thing from Google Drive, link, file, YouTube, all those great options. Similarly, you can assign it to all your classes, assign it to a topic as well. The third one is the reuse post, which is one of my favorite things because I use all the time. I've got third, fourth, and fifth graders, and I reuse posts all the time. So for example, on my Mondays, I see my fifth graders synchronously. So then when I see a different grade level synchronously, I will find a topic from previous usage. So here's a third grade one from a synchronous lesson. If I click on that, it gets highlighted. I can click reuse, and the exact same post will get auto-populated with the same directions, same title, same links, everything. The only thing I need to change is the title, perhaps. I can assign it to the classes I want it to assign to. I will need to change the due date back up, and I can change the topic. But this is such a huge time saver to reuse the post. I do this all the time, and if you are going to see multiple grade levels, multiple classes within the same grade level, whatever it might be, I strongly recommend that you do that as well. It's going to be a huge time saver, and you're really going to appreciate that additional time. The last thing I want to show you is create a topic. When you click create a topic, all it does, it just gives you the opportunity to create something brand new, and that will show up over here where it says all topics. Now, just real briefly, I want to speak about these topics. This is how I navigate. I tell my students on our synchronous days to click on the synchronous lesson topics, and the newest one will always show up. Oop, that's a draft one. I'm going to get rid of that. Sorry about that. But the newest one will always show up at the top, which is huge, because then when I see them live, I can say, just double check the date. Is that today's date? Great, then that's the one we're working on. And that's a huge benefit to you. How you organize your topics is entirely up to you. I've chosen to organize it by asynchronous lessons and synchronous lessons, because then again, I just have to tell the students what type of day it is, and then that's the topic they need to go to. But you might choose to organize it by units, health units, throwing units, whatever it might be. It's completely up to you how you want to organize it. But I do recommend that you organize it somehow by topics, just for your own sanity, but then also to help your students with navigating. There's a lot more I could talk about with Google Classroom. I could probably spend hours on it, but this is hopefully just a quick overview so you can see how I've organized it as you begin to organize it yourself. Again, there's no right or wrong way. There's just the way that works best for you and for your students. As always, feel free to reach out to me. I am always more than happy to help out. If you have specific questions, you know how to get a hold of me.